Shireen Awwad Helal. Shireen Awwad Helal is the Dean of Students and an instructor at Bethlehem Bible College, where she teaches educational and leadership courses. She has a master's degree in educational administration, which she obtained from Texas A&M University. After returning to her homeland, she later obtained her second MBA from Tel Aviv University. As an active leader with Musalaha for many years, Shireen has also been involved in women's ministry, consultancy work, and young adult ministry. Let's welcome Shireen Awwad Helal.
My name is Shireen Awwad. I was born and raised in Beit Sahur, which is known as the Shepherd's Field, from the time of Jesus up to this day. I have 4 lovely children, and it happens that they're all here. So, Mirun, Marcel, and Maria, and Ryan, and of course my husband. My parents were also born and raised in Palestine. My dad is from Beit Sahur, and my mom comes from Gaza. Both of them are my source of inspiration. Excuse me. I want to dedicate this talk to you tonight in the memory of my father, who passed away 4 months ago today. Some people ask, how long have you been involved in peacebuilding? My answer is that there is no beginning or end. I have been involved in peacebuilding for as long as I can remember. The thing that first challenged me to be active in peacebuilding is conflict. I have been surrounded by conflict all of my life. We all live in sort of conflict, but the conflict I learned is a double-edged sword, as one side is gender and how many culture perceives it, and the other is the political situation we are living in. I am a woman, I am a Christian, and I am a peacemaker, and I will share how each of these affect my life and many Palestinian Christian women in the context of conflict. I would like to challenge my Palestinian community to think deeply about this with me, and I would also like to challenge the international community to consider what role it has to play in this. What Palestinian society says about women? I am a woman, but this does not simply refer to my biological sex. It refers to the roles and expectations surrounding this thing we call Palestinian womanhood. It is important to begin by distinguishing between sex and gender. Gender is not biological sex, whether one is born male or female, but it is the role and the responsibilities associated with masculinity and femininity. Gender characteristics change over time as it has to do with the cultural way a body is perceived. In my society, gender has many negative connotations because there is a difference between what men and women can do. Most times, the culture with its politics, traditions, church, and society limit women in so many ways. We often hear women are not ready to hold proper conversation. Or when men speak, thank you, May. When men speak, women should be silent. We know how much men depend on women. But when it is in public, it is not the case. Women should be behind the scene. People say, supporting the men in their lives. Let's consider some of the Palestinian idioms, and that is used on daily basis. Women are born with half a brain. المرأة ناقصة عقل ودين. A mother's anxiety over her daughter goes to the grave. هم البنات للممات. No matter what you do or where you go, you will end up in the kitchen. آخرة البنت وين؟ المطبخ. In my walk of life, in my career life, and in my personal life, I have met and worked with so many women. What I notice is that women are so smart, and they are here in our midst today. They hold important positions. They hold important positions in schools and in banks and other vocations. Additionally, women are most often the educators who walk with their children, teaching them and trying to raise them the proper way. If we have the privilege and the challenge of raising our children, and if we are respected in certain positions, why should we accept silence in others? Why? There is more to say. Sometimes we think religion or church will free us from such a mentality, but the truth is, it doesn't. Most churches in Palestine and in Israel prohibit women from using their God-given skills. Women are not looked at primarily as teachers or leaders, but as second-class citizens, those valued for quietly keeping the children in line while the men teach and preach and gain respect in their community. And again, we have so many women that I can consider them friends of mine that are amazing preachers. And again, they're also in our midst today, whether Palestinians or Jews. What it means to be a Christian in the context. I am a woman and I am a Christian. What does it mean for me to be a Palestinian Christian woman? It means that I turn to the Bible text as the source of my inspiration. Yet, often the scripture have been quoted and texts have been used to dehumanize and subjugate women. What are the stories that are told about women in the Bible, and what do they leave out? They often leave out the things we hold dearest, where we've come from, what we love, what we've lost, rejoicing at how we serve the story without consideration for the well-being of our daily lives. The womanist theologian Will Gaffney speaks at length about gender, power, and marginalization in the text. And there is much we can learn from one another, reading across times and cultures and traditions, and I can bring some of what I have learned from her today. I recall a very powerful story about a simple woman who came to greatness not because she chose it, but because she was treated unjustly. And yet, she came out on the other side. She serves a particular place in the story, a place we women know well. She is important due to her relationship with an important man, and we do not know much about her from her perspective, as it didn't serve the writer's interest to tell us where she came from, what she loved, those she left behind, and the emotional cost of injustices imposed on her. I would like to share a little about Hagar, from Genesis 16. Hagar, is considered the mother of many nations, but let us be more specific. Hagar is looked at as the mother of the Arab people. She is recalled not only in the biblical account, but in the Muslim tradition. While she is not mentioned in the Quran, Hagar is spoken on the Hadith, the report and the accounts connected to the Prophet Muhammad's life. In Islam, Hagar is the mother of Abraham's heir, the firstborn child. Part of Hajar's flight into the wilderness is remembered during the annual Hajj. And many people do not know that the Arabic word for Hajar and Hajj are connected. Genesis 16 does not tell us how Hagar became a slave. Was she born a slave? Where was her family from? The author does not think it is important to tell us. We do not even know her real name, for she is an other. Hajar means the foreigner or the alien in Hebrew. In Genesis 16, we see that Hagar has no say over her body or to whom her body is given. She is an other by all measures, and she is female. She is a foreigner. She is a slave. However, she does have something Sarai does not have, which is fertility. Until today, believe it or not, many people value women only if they bear children. And so Hagar is used for that one thing she is deemed valuable for. Some interpretations of the Bible look at Hagar as cursed. Sarai, the mother of Isaac and the Jewish people, is considered blessed, and Hagar cursed. But that is not true. Hagar was also blessed. She was forced from Sarai's home. She was deserted and alone with her son Emmanuel. She was desperate, and she cried out to God. Did God respond to her cry? A messenger of God, who often functions as God in disguise, came to her. And not only did God respond, God met her needs. This is the very first theophany in the Bible, the very first time we see God appear. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing that God first appeared to a woman, and not only to any woman, but to the mother of the Arab peoples? This, my fellow sisters, my fellow brothers, is the way we need to learn to approach the text. We need to read the text again across time and culture. Well, Gaffney, Hagar shares, Hagar is also revered as a matriarch by many African American Christians who find resonances between her enslavement, sexual abuse, and ultimate liberation, and the experiences of enslaved African women in the Africas and the Caribbeans. Dear brothers, dear sisters, let us learn new lessons from Hagar's story that African American Christians can teach us from their struggle for liberation, and let us bless women as God blessed Hagar. What it means to be a peacemaker in this context. I am a woman, I am a Christian, and I am a peacemaker. What does it mean for me to be a Palestinian Christian woman who is a peacemaker? When people want to know about Palestinian women peacemakers, they want to know about their peace and reconciliation we engage in. I have been committed to working for peace and justice alongside my Israeli brothers and sisters for so many years. But it's important to note, peace is not passive, and peace is not silent. Peace protests, peace acts, peace disrupts the status quo. I am committed to working for peace alongside Israelis, but I would like to address another, less discussed aspect of peacemaking. Many times, people want to hear from women when they talk about peace. But what about all of the other areas in our lives and churches and communities? If we, and listen carefully, my dear friends, if we women are an important part of the church and the Palestinian community, why are we not 15% of the society's leaders, of church leaders, of conference speakers? Where are the women? Where are the women you wish to speak and to lead and to reach others when the international community is not around? And I want to share with you just one story that is just, some people when they hear, they think, is this real? In my own community. One time I applied for actually a senior position at a firm, and that firm is actually a Christian firm. So the first thing when I met with the director, he asks, "Are you planning on having more children?" And I'm like, "Excuse me?" "Well, if you are, we don't have the position. We have schools, Christian schools, who are ready to give you a contract that you sign stating that if you get pregnant, you're automatically dismissed." This is what happened to my friend, Rula. And to my dear brothers and sisters, the international community. Sometimes we feel that people want to hear our success stories without regard for our ongoing struggles, not only in the conflict, but in our daily lives, in our communities and churches. You can play an important role in supporting us, not only theologically and nationally, but also in supporting equality for Palestinian women. When you support our conferences and come and visit us here, you can ask to hear from our women, not just our men, with all respect. As important as we believe it is that Christians who come to the Holy Land not only to meet Jews, but also to meet Palestinians, we also believe it's important that you not only meet Palestinian men, but Palestinian women. You can enforce our inferior status, or you can help us overcome it by insisting that women should be equally represented among speakers, theologians, and figures you meet when you come here. Part of what I do here is to empower women and remind them they are capable and they are worthy, whether or not society allows them roles and opportunities. I encourage women to speak up if something is wrong, to speak against injustice if they are treated unjustly. I try to inspire women to work on appreciating themselves and to believe that they are just as able as the men in our community. Sometimes when you continue to hear, you are not worthy, you are not told, you are told you have a half brain, that you bring anxiety to your mother, or you bring shame to your family. When you are told you belong to the kitchen, you start to believe so. And you become less confident in yourself. When my Palestinian community denies us a chance to speak equally, when the international community is not interested in actively supporting Palestinian women and insisting that they hear from us as well, this results in creating a big wall. Exactly like the segregation wall we have around the West Bank. This wall divides our community. It divides men and women. It keeps women from being able to use their gifts in the context of church and society. And this wall must come down. Let us once again look at the story of Hagar. When Hagar cried out to the Lord heard her cry. Well, Gaffney writes about Hagar's encounter with God. When she runs away, God appears to her as a divine messenger. In Genesis 16:13, we see that God revealed God's self to her as Yahweh, or the Lord in capital letters, but Hagar does not call God by this name. Instead, Gaffney writes, Hagar gives God a new name. one of her choosing, she calls God El Roi, God who has seen me, God whom I have seen. This naming of God by a person is without precedent, nor is there any following example of someone naming God in the scripture. I would like to suggest that in Palestinian Christian society, our men are seen as the chosen children, the children of Sarah, the ones to whom the promises of leadership and blessings are given, and our women are seen as those who are unworthy of leadership, brought back in when we are needed, and rejected when others think we are no longer useful. But I challenge you, my fellow Palestinian women. You are seen by God. God sees you, and you are worthy. In the tradition of Hagar, we have a special place, and we can call God by a new name and proclaim this among our people. This can bring a message of peace, not only in the work and are committed to among our Israeli brothers and sisters, but also a message of true, sustainable peace within our Palestinian community as well. To conclude, my brothers and sisters, I implore you, do not allow these stories to overlook us. Let your conferences continue without us, assuming our silence is self-imposed rather than chosen by others over us. This is a chance for us to allow the story of Hagar to challenge us, to provide a place for us as Palestinian Christian feminists who believe that women are as worthy and competent as men. I am talking about a vision of women and our role in the society as being inclusive and a mutual blessing. I know our communities have lots of brokenness and complicated family relationships. Our society must create space for all of these people to use their gifts, regardless of whether they are an other in our community, as Hagar was in hers. For we have no idea what beautiful message of worth and value can come from the line of a woman who was treated unjustly. This, my friends, is a little of what it means for me to be a woman, a Christian, and a peacemaker. It is protest in action, it is disruption, and there is a place and role for all of us here. May we support and affirm the gifting of all people within our communities, whether men, women, and also children, and see that our community will never be completely whole until all the people among us are able, freed to use our gifts to the glory of God. Thank you very much.